Hello, everyone. We are going to wait for 2 more minutes for the other participants to join in, and we shall proceed with the session. Thank you. Hello, everyone. May I audible to all of you?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Very good evening to all. I hope all of you are doing well. So, warm welcome to each one of you in today's workshop on Gestalt Therapy. Myself, Arpita Roy, I will be facilitating today's workshop. So, I'm an RCO licensed clinical and rehabilitation psychologist. I am in this field for past 10 years. So I'm having multidisciplinary experience as I have worked in both academic as well as clinical fields. It includes a lot of neuropsychiatric clinics, psychological treatment centers, the addiction cum rehabilitation centers, audiovisual production house, where I have been associated as the personality development counselor. Here also we are having a separate course on personality development and body language. I also have been a part of the National Trust. You might have heard of it. It's a government welfare body for autism, cerebral palsy, and mental retardation. Also, I have been a part of a lot of schools and NGOs. I have also been a former lecturer at the University of Calcutta. I'm a clinical psychologist at government hospital. I have experience in working with clients having organic disease, mood and anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, personality disorder, mental retardation, and childhood disorders. I also give family and marriage or couple counseling where both pre-marital and post-marital difficulties are being dealt appropriately. And here also I do run a certificate course in couple and family. I have also worked with special conditions like deliberate self-harm, bereavement, substance abuse, and learning disability. Also, I do carry out with LGBTQ counseling or queer affirmative therapy. We are also having a separate certificate course of the same. So I'm an expert in conducting psychometric assessments for adults as well as children. And I'm a trained psychotherapist, and I use my experience into customizing different therapies, which includes CBT, REBT, DBT, MET, Gestalt therapy, play therapy, supportive psychotherapy, grief therapy, SFBT with my clients. Apart from that, I had my clinic offline as well as I take appearance online as well. So in today's session, we are going to discuss in detail about the Gestalt therapy. So before we jump into the topic, I would request all of you to introduce yourself in brief, just your name, your qualification, and what you're doing currently, and what made you join today's workshop. This would be a great way to start, and it would be the easiest way to get connected with each one of you. So let us proceed with the same.
Hello,
Yes, you are audible. Please go
audible?
ahead.
Yeah, I'm Professor Ashwani from Madras School of Social Work, Chennai. I'm
Mhm.
working in the Department of MSW, Disability and Empowerment.
Mhm. Okay. So what made you join today's workshop?
Actually, it was one of my students who had shared this thing where a lot of therapy and a lot of sessions were going on. I had also attended the IQ assessment test.
IQ
So it
assessment.
was it was very informative. And so I
Mhm.
thought, like, rather than just be referring and
Great
taking
to see you
sessions,
again.
it would be nice to hear from others also, like how and what are the other options and kind of things. Current trends, especially, how is it working from a practical person's part of view? Yeah, that's
Great to see you again.
fine.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Let's proceed with others. Yes. How about others? Shrikant, Ila, Madhurima.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Yes, you're
Yes,
audible.
my name is Madhurima Ghosh, and I am a counseling psychologist. I have completed graduation with psychology honors, then specialization masters in counseling psychology. Currently, I'm working as a counseling psychologist, and for today's session,
Are you into
my
private practice or are you
interest
attached
was
with any organization?
yes, to enhance knowledge.
Okay, Madhurima, are you currently attached with any organization or you're privately practicing?
I am also with organization online practices.
Okay, great. You're welcome, Madhurima.
Thank you.
Let's proceed with others.
Hi, this is Rana Pratap Singh. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
I'm from Patiala, Chandigarh basically. So I studied from Chandigarh, TAB 10 sector, graduation and master's in psychology. And then
Mm-hmm.
I pursued master's in public policy and governance. I've also done bachelor's of education, BEd. Currently, I'm working with Milestone, Patiala, as a school counselor and PGT psychology. So I'm doing this workshop to enhance my scope and uh, use it in school counseling.
Okay, okay. You're welcome.
Thank you.
How about others? Others also, if we can quickly proceed with the introduction. Is there anyone who is coming from a different background, but you are interested in this field or in this topic, and that's why you have joined in, but you're not from this background? Can you please introduce yourself? That would help me to get connected with you in a better way. Accordingly, I'll go ahead with the discussion. Yeah. Okay. So let us keep the session interactive. In case of any doubt, question, queries, you can raise your hand or you can put it up in the chat box. So now the first thing that I would like to ask you all, what idea do you have with regard to Gestalt therapy? No, I'm not talking about any definition. So I'm just asking a genuine question, like what comes to your mind? You may be right, you may be wrong. No problem with that. Just what comes to your mind when you come across this term Gestalt therapy, what it might be. I'll pause for you all to share your views in the chat box. Any idea you have with regard to this topic? I mean, something came to your mind, no? Because of which you joined today's session. What was it? Okay, one of you mentioned the whole is greater. Whole is greater than the sum of its parts is Gestalt psychology. Whole is more than parts, focusing on present problem rather than past. Okay. I'll wait for others also to type in. Self-awareness of present. Okay. Work on instant solutions. Okay. Like painkillers. Okay. Others also, you can share your views. It might be totally different, no worries. Okay, no problem. I will share it in detail. So it seems few of you are having an idea. Few are new totally to this topic. So keeping that thing in mind, accordingly, I'll go ahead with the discussion. So this is indeed a vast part. So these are the areas we are going to cover in today's session. So we will be discussing about understanding Gestalt therapy, what it is, the theory of personality, the concepts of Gestalt therapy. That's also another part we are going to discuss. The therapeutic goals, the therapist's function and role of the therapist, the methods and the practical techniques that we use while carrying out the Gestalt therapy, where all we can apply Gestalt therapy if we are learning it. That would be the next part. And we will also be discussing about the strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so it's a vast part. So let me share first about Fred's pulse. What he mentioned is, I am not in this world to live up to other people's expectations, nor do I feel that the world must live up to mine. Very expensive words, right? So when we are talking about this part, like according to Frederick S. Pulse, MD, PhD, Gestalt psychology is an it's really not possible to remember each and everything. So I would request all of you to take note as we proceed with the session. Although for reference, I'm going to share the session recording with you all. But still to be on the safer side, because many a time the recordings create a lot of difficulty. So to be on the safer side, save on the data, okay, when taking notes. So Gestalt is a German word which refers to the total shape of something. A gestalt or whole, which includes and transcends the sum of the parts. And just a while ago, you all were sharing about it in the chat box, right? It cannot be understood simply as a sum of smaller independent events. So if we are talking about the theory of personality, in that case, a person exists by differentiating self from others and by connecting self with others. These two functions of the boundary and the boundary between the self and the environment must be permeable to allow for exchange, yet firm enough to enable and adjourn speech. So that means it should not be too rigid and it should not be too fierce. When the boundary becomes unclear, lost, or impermeable, mental and emotional disturbances can happen to an individual. So with regard to that part, we need to help an individual so that they are not experiencing such kind of issues or difficulties or complications. The main originator and developer of Gestalt therapy was Fritz Perls in 1993 to 1970, and his wife, Laura Perls, in 1905 to 1990. It is existential or phenomenological approach, and therapists try to increase the client's awareness. Yes, just a while ago, one of you were mentioning, self-awareness of the present, correctly identified. So here, we as therapists or professionals, we would try to increase the client's sense of awareness. It is grounded to the client's here and now, being in the current moment. So now let's discuss about the key concepts of Gestalt therapy, because this is a very new and very different concept. Generally, we don't see much in our graduation, like in graduation, it's not there in our syllabus. In masters, also just a brief about it. That's it. So Gestalt therapy is another type of counseling that is based upon the existential framework, and the key elements include, firstly, phenomenological basis. That is, you are seeking to focus on the client's perception of reality. Next is the experiential. That is, the client is being asked to come to understand about what and how they are feeling and doing as they interact with the therapist and the other people in the world. That's all. Apart from that, we also focus on the existential part. That is, the person is to take responsibility of their destiny and their identity. We cannot just say, oh, it was in my fate, it just happened, it's not in my hand. No, it's not like that. Next is awareness. A key element in this theory is helping the client come to an awareness of what he or she is doing and experiencing, and the now. That is, the power is in the present. We will not be able to move forward by looking backward. So we need to be in the present. So the only moment that is significant is the present. For many people, the power of the present is lost. And there lies the problem or the difficulty. They find it difficult to go. Another concept that we would have to understand is the unfinished business. So feelings about the past are unexpressed. For example, hatred, pain, anxiety, grief, etc. These feelings are associated with distinct memories and fantasies. And this unexpressed feelings can result in physical symptoms. We often say, psychosomatic problems. Problems at the psychological area, it's an emotional area, but it is impacting on our physical health. For example, I'm preoccupied with something, or I'm doing some repetitive activities like compulsive behavior, self-defeating behavior, something which is not helping me in any way, some negative behaviors, which is going to also harm my own self. So Gestalt therapists emphasize paying attention to the bodily experience an individual is experiencing and helping them to deal and overcome with regard to those areas. Now, when we talk about any therapy, and if we are talking about the field of psychology, psychotherapy, Sigmund Freud is a very prominent face. We all must know about it. So Sigmund Freud versus Fritz Perls. So Freud's point of view was we, like all human beings, like he viewed the human being as mechanistic. So he focused on repressed intrapsychic conflicts to early childhood. That something happened, it was there, and now it is coming up in the surface in the form of XYZ problem. That's how it is being viewed. Versus, if we are talking about Pearl's point of view, he took a holistic approach to the personality. He's not focusing on what has happened in the past. Instead, he's focusing on examining the present situation of conflict. No, this thing is not shown in this way in to make you all understand that Pearl's is better than Freud's theory or nothing like that. These are two different perspectives. So this will give us a clear understanding of the topic that we will be discussing only for that reason. It's very good. So the Gestalt approach focuses much more on process than on content. So Pearl's asserted that how individuals behave in the present moment is far more crucial and self-understanding than why they behave as they do. This is according to Pearls. So the main goal of Gestalt therapy is to enhance and to provide a self-acceptance. This is most important. Until and unless I accept my own self, lot of problems I will not be able to deal with, and a lot of problems will also come. So it provides self-acceptance, knowledge of the environment, responsibility for choices, and the ability to make contact with their field. That is a dynamic system of interrelationships. It's all connected. And the people in it, all of which are based on here and now and experience that is always changing. So if we are not focusing on the here and now and currently what we are going through, we will not be able to help ourselves and not able to come out of the same. So the Gestalt view of human nature, if we talk about that. So Gestalt's basic understanding of the human being is that people can deal with their problems, especially if they are fully aware of what is happening within themselves and outside themselves. So if I don't know, if I feel lost, I will not be able to take care of myself or help me overcome on the areas. So change happens in a person's life where he or she can reintegrate a disowned part of the self back into the mix of our life. So Gestalt is basically a process of re-owing those parts of the self that have been dissolved. So change takes place when a person is more aware of who and what he or she is. So more the awareness, better they will be able to deal with the areas. So living with masks and does not promote change. So problems begin when a person tries to be who or what he or she isn't. This is me, so there is no problem. But the moment I will try to be like someone or something or to meet up a standard, I will start to have problems. So in fact, it promotes a stagnation of the personality. And according to Gestalt, the more a person tries to be who they are not, the more they stay in the same area. There is no doubt. Because when we are talking about the concept of personality, personality is a unique characteristic of an individual. So if we are talking about the process of re-owing, so the re-owing of parts of that have been dissolved and the unification process proceeds step by step until clients become strong enough to carry on their own personal growth. So by becoming aware, the clients become able to make informed choices and thus to live a more meaningful existence. So this is a very essential part we need to understand about it. Next, the basic assumption of Gestalt therapy is that individuals have the capacity to self-regulate when they are aware of what is happening in and around them. Therefore, therapy provides the setting and opportunity for the awareness to be supported and restored for the individuals. Right? So the point is, the more we work at becoming who or what we are not, the more we remain same. So authentic change, if we are talking about, it will occur more from being who we are than from trying to be who we are not. And this is the reason why we should first start with self-acceptance. And for that, self-awareness and being present in the current moment is very essential. So let's discuss some of the principles of Gestalt therapy. First of all, talking about the person. So this is a form that cannot be separated into parts without losing its essence, because Gestalt therapists are interested in the full person. I'm not focusing on only one or two aspects. They place no superior value on a particular aspect or a part of the individual. They are equally giving importance to all the areas. So if we are talking about this, then the Gestalt therapy is basically based on a field theory. That is, the organism must be seen in its environment, because with regard to that, we interpret things or its context as a part of the constantly changing field. Its principle, like everything is relational, in flux, interrelated, and in process. The field is the entire situation of the therapist, the client, and all that goes on between them. The field is made and constantly remade. So let me clarify on this part in much more easier manner. Let's discuss about the figure formation process. Okay. So this describes how the individual organizes the experience from a moment to moment. So field is there. Field means the entire situation that's and a foreground, that is a figure or an individual in that field, and a background, that is a setting is there. So the figure formation process tracks how some aspect of the environmental field emerges from the background and becomes the focal part of the individual's attention and the individual's interest area that is there. Next, let's discuss about the organismic self-regulation. So this intertwined with the principle of the figure formation process, that is a process by which equilibrium is disturbed. That means a balance was there, it got disturbed by the emergence of a need or a sensation or an interest. So organisms will do their best to regulate themselves, given their own capabilities and the resources of their environment. That part is also there. So the therapeutic work is associated with what is of interest to or what the client needs to be able to regain that sense of balance or the equilibrium, which led to disequilibrium. So the goal is to help the client to obtain a closure of the unfinished situations and destroy fixed gestalts and incorporate more satisfying things in their life. So if we are trying to identify what would be our therapeutic goals, if we are with this, then first of all, It will help us move towards an increased awareness of ourselves, gradually assuming the ownership of their own experience, develop skills and acquire values that will allow them to satisfy their needs without violating the rights of others, become more aware of all their senses, learn to accept the responsibility for what they do, including accepting the consequences of their actions, move from outside support towards increasing their internal support, be able to ask for and get help from others and give to others as and when it's required. Now, let's discuss about the therapist's function and the therapist's role, how the therapist is playing a role here. So, therapist here will be encouraging the present time of the client. Bring the past into the present by reenacting in the present, not living in the past. Okay, you want to overcome what has happened in your past. Let me bring it to the present. You reenact, you deal, you overcome. It's done. So, therapist should focus on what and how of a person without asking, why are you thinking? No why questions. So, this is to promote an awareness of the moment and questions such as what is happening now? What are you feeling in this moment? All these things are used to intensify the experience of the present and create an awareness in an individual. And why questions, what will happen? It will lead towards rationalization, self-deceptions away from the immediacy of the moment. In that case, people will pay attention to the client's body change, the focus on the language and what happened in the past. So it is not going to help the individual in any way. So the Gestalt therapist's basic goal will be to assist the client to attain greater awareness, knowing their environment, their own self, accepting their own self, and being able to make a contact. So now, what are the things that clients are expected to do to attain all these things? First, move towards increased awareness of themselves and gradually assume the ownership of their experience, develop skills and acquire the values that will allow them to satisfy their needs. So if they are following these things, then they will be able to carry out the tough areas in a better way. Apart from there, they should become more aware of all their senses. Learn to accept responsibility for what they do and be able to ask for and get help from others and be able to give to others. So when we are talking about these areas, the next thing that we need to discuss here with the important function of the Gestalt therapist is paying attention to the client's body, client's language, the body language, the non-verbal language, the verbal language, that is the speech. Because until and unless they clinically observe the things, they might miss out on a lot of information. Aspects of language that Gestalt therapists should focus on is it should be I talk, you talk, the questions, the language that denies power, listening to the client's metaphors, listening to the language that uncovers a story for the client. Those things we will see going ahead. So talking about the relationship between the therapist and the client. So the therapists are responsible for the quality of their presence, for knowing themselves and the client and remaining open to the client and establishing and maintaining a proper therapeutic atmosphere where the client will be feeling comfortable to go ahead and open up. Now, the next and the very important and practical thing that we need to do, we need to prepare the therapy, how to go ahead with it, so that the client is also benefiting and is cooperative. So it is important for the counselors to personally experience the power of Gestalt experiments in order to feel comfortable in suggesting and explaining the clients what they are going to get if they are participating or if they are going ahead with the techniques. So the essence of current Gestalt therapy involves honoring and respecting reluctance or resistance, and supporting the clients to become more aware of their experience. Right? Apart from that, let us also discuss some of the guidelines. There are guidelines. Guidelines in the preparation. So counselors need to know when to leave the client alone. Counselors need to know when to introduce experiments or whatever techniques we would be using so that it's used on a correct time, the correct way. Experiments depend on the person's problems, what the person is experiencing, not like randomly I know these things I'm introducing with the client, not in that. And client's active role in self-exploration is mandatory. So the client need to actively participate in the sessions to benefit. Respectful of the client's cultural background, irrespective of whatever XYZ background the client is coming from. They need to be respectful. And the counselor needs to be flexible and not rigid to one particular type of thing or going ahead with it in a rigid manner. And also, we need to confront the client in certain cases. So it is important to be direct and confrontational, but remember, your rapport building with your client should be very much proper before you start with confronting the client. So it can be done in an inviting manner and not in a harsh manner. Now, let us discuss all the practical techniques and the therapeutic methods that we use when we are talking about carrying out with Gestalt therapy. First, we are going to discuss about the experiments that we perform during the therapy. So the therapist designs some experiment to increase the client's awareness. Clients, as we did discuss many a time, it is seen if they are not aware, they are lacking on the awareness. So if we want to develop on the awareness, we would have to do some small experiments so that they are becoming more aware of what he or she is doing, experiencing, and how he or she is doing. How we can do that? We can do that in the form of a role play. I am the client, you are my therapist. Let us take a situation and let us pretend and go ahead with it. So role play can actually help the individuals to experience different feelings and emotions and better understand how they present and organize in an approach. Okay, so if we are talking about the experiment in the Gestalt therapy, then Gestalt therapists invite the clients to engage in experiments that lead to fresh emotional experiencing, and that is going to develop new insight into them. Whatever we do during the therapy session is not just like that. We are trying to gather some information or develop on something or helping the client with some new insights. So in that way, in a planned, structured format, we basically follow through the things. So the experiment part we are talking about, there are certain forms of Gestalt experiments. First, imagining a threatening future that you are going to encounter. Many a time clients fear that. Oh my God, I just don't want to think about it. So what will happen if you are thinking that I don't want to think about it? Is it that it will not take place in the future? Is it that you will be prepared? No. So, imagining a threatening future encounter, this is one type of experiment. Next is setting up a dialogue between the client and some significant persons in his or her life, kind of a role play. Okay. So these are certain things we are doing with the client as part of this. Next is dramatizing the memory of a painful pain, something that has happened, which is very painful, very traumatic. We are dramatizing and acting out that. That means the past is brought into the present. That's what we did discuss. That's how it is being carried out. Reliving a particularly profound early experience in the present. Something happened. Early experience, that means something happened very long back. I'm bringing that into the current moment and I'm trying to relive that and overcome that. Next, assuming the identity of one's mother or a father through a role play, lot of things will come out when it will become easier for an individual to work with the expression. And carrying on a dialogue between two conflicting aspects within the person. This will give the person a lot of understanding and a lot of insight development, and also it will bring a clarity for the client to seek help where I'm needed. The therapist will also get to understand the practical areas where the client needs help. Sometimes when we carry out with the session, we use another technique. We call it the open chair technique. Have a look at this. Client is sitting here. In front of the client, an empty chair is kept. This is also often referred to as the empty chair technique, or two chair technique, or open chair technique, or the chair lock. So, the open chair technique involves two chairs and a role play. Now, you might be thinking, why two chairs? So, this can give rise to the emotional scenes. The client sits opposite to the empty chair and must imagine someone in it. So here, client is sitting here, chair number 1, and in chair number 2, the client is imagining some XYZ person and then going ahead reacting. So they basically will communicate with an imaginary person sitting on that chair, asking questions and engaging with what they present. Next, they must switch the chairs. That means the client will get up from chair number 1 and sit on the chair number 2 and act from the side of that person with that XYZ person, and now keep this side empty. This will also help an individual to go ahead with a better understanding and a clarity from both the ends. So the conversation continues, but the client has reversed the roles, speaking on behalf of the imagined part of his or her problem. This technique is also often used in case of grief counseling, bereavement counseling, trauma counseling. For example, a person is going through a period of bereavement. They have lost someone, some close person has passed away. It was terrible demise, painful. So talking about the person is much more difficult. Right. So here we often use this empty chair technique because it is a technique where the person will be thinking about that person on that empty chair and communicating to that person. So communicating to a person is much more easier than communicating about a person. So the expression is becoming much more easier. This technique aims to enable the participants to locate a specific feeling or a side of their personality they have dissolved or tried to ignore. Sometimes, subconsciously we suppress certain things. Now everything will come to light. And this helps them to accept the polarities and acknowledge that conflicts exist in everyone. And once they are identifying that is happening, it's coming to the here and now, it's coming to the present. So you can see this is how basically it is being carried out for the clients. So this one way of getting the client to externalize the introject is a technique that was used greatly. So using these two chairs, basically the therapist asks the client to sit in one chair and be fully on the top dog, and then shift to the other chair and become the under. So this dialogue exchange that they are doing by sitting on the chairs or by exchanging their chairs, this can continue between both the sides of the client. Essentially, this is basically the role play technique in which all the parts are played by the clients. And the goal of this exercise is to promote a higher level of integration between the polarities and the conflicts that exist in everyone, as we were discussing. So the aim is not to get rid oneself of certain traits, but to learn to accept and live with the polarities that an individual may be. Next, another technique which we often use, and sometimes this techniques we also use in a collaborative way along with other techniques. It's not always like individually, independently separate techniques that we use. The technique of dialogue. A Gestalt therapist will need to engage the client in meaningful and authentic dialogue in order to guide them into a particular way of behaving or this may move beyond simple discussion to more creative forms of expression, such as dancing, singing, laughing. This kind of things can be taking place. So when we are talking about this part, then one goal of Gestalt therapy is to bring about an integrated functioning and acceptance of aspects of one's personality that have been disowned or denied. So when you are using a dialogue exercise, it's coming up to light. So Gestalt therapists pay close attention to the splits in personality function and a main division between the top dog and the underdog. That means you're changing. So you are on the top side here, and then you are changing, you're moving on that side. This often focuses on the war between the two or the conflicts that they might be having, which they will not able to deal or overcome on the paths. Next, apart from all these things, another part is also there when we are talking about these areas. That is, often clients mention about their dreams, what kind of thoughts, what kind of dreams that they are. Often it is also mentioned that when we are talking about our dreams, it is something like going on in their subconscious or their unconscious mind, which is getting reflected in the form of a dream. Sometimes clients mention, "Oh, I forget my dreams." Or sometimes they mention, "I don't know why I just dreamt in that way because it makes no sense." So the point is, we don't know to interpret our dreams. Dreams also have a meaning. It's how our mind is working or operating based on that things are coming in the form of sleep. Many things which we might not be aware of may come to us in the form of a dream. Always we don't see our dreams in a direct manner. Sometimes it's indirect or it is symbolic. Because lots of things, if we would have seen in a direct manner, would be terrible or difficult for us to actually accept that impact. Might be disturbing. Sometimes what happens is people say, "No, I forgot the dream." So maybe it was really very disturbing. It was distorted. That's why our conscious mind was trying to put a burden. Now, we are making use of that as well when we are going to language system, as there are so many. So the Gestalt approach to dream work. So in psychoanalysis, who introduced with this psychoanalysis? Psychoanalysis was introduced by Sigmund Freud. Just a while ago, we were discussing about Sigmund Freud, where Freud mentioned a lot of things are there important in our past that is taking place. We need to focus on that. So, Freud once mentioned that there are different things that is there in our mind. So before that, let me explain the different levels of our mind. The first and the topmost layer is the conscious. Now, all of us, we are conscious. I am conscious, you are conscious. So what I'm saying, you are listening, you are nodding your head, you are understanding. So in that, it's happening. Just beneath the conscious is the subconscious. Subconscious, for example, I'm saying, last week at this particular time, exactly what were you doing? So you have to think about it. Maybe I was doing this. That means it was not in your conscious mind. That's you have to recall it, to bring it to conscious mind, and then you are mentioning. Right? Next. Conscious, subconscious, and below that is unconscious. So when we are conscious, now we are conscious, we don't know what is there in our unconscious. Things which are very difficult to accept, something which is distressing, highly stressful, we keep on suppressing those things, or we dump it into the unconscious. There can be a lot of conflicts. Sometimes when we are talking about the dream, those things basically come up in the form of dream, because when we are sleeping, we are not conscious. Then the door between the subconscious and unconscious opens and things come in the form of dreams. So Sigmund Freud often mentioned that this subconscious, that deepest there, the level mind that we are having, there are a lot of unresolved conflicts. So these conflicts are not being resolved. It will give rise to some emotional and behavioral and psychological problem in an individual. And if we can dig deeper, resolve the issues that are there in the unconscious, problem solved. But the problem was, I being conscious, how will I dig deeper into the unconscious? Just now we did discuss, but that's not possible. So then Sigmund Freud came up with this concept of psychoanalysis. This is a technique with the help of which Freud mentioned that we can move into the unconscious, bring to the level what all are there, resolve, and we are. But how to do that? Dreams are one of the easiest way to get access to it. Why? Because as we did discuss, when we are like now we are conscious. So the door between conscious and subconscious is there. I recall I remember. But when we are sleeping, the conscious mind shut off. Then the subconscious and unconscious, the second and the third level, the gateway between these two is open. Dreams are coming. So what if we are noting on that dreams and we are interpreting on those areas, we will be able to identify a lot of things. That's what makes something. So in psychoanalysis, dreams are interpreted. Intellectual insight is being stressed. And free association is also used to explore the unconscious meanings of dreams. Now, what is free association? If you ask the client what is going on in your mind, the client could be saying what is there in the conscious mind, and thoughtfully using a sensor, making changes, they will work. That is not what we want to do. So what are we going to do? When we are talking about this part, we will go ahead with asking the client, tell me whatever comes to you. Any random thing, anything you think it's very negative, or anything you are thoughtful, shall I say this to therapist? You can also go ahead with that. Don't use any censor. Don't change any words, terms, or adjectives. Say as it is. It's just that comes to your mind. Say anything and everything you wish to. So in that way, what will happen? Freud mentioned that the points or the areas which we would like to address will automatically come. Because when we are structuring a sentence in a thoughtful manner, we are, then mentioning, shall I say, shall I not say, what will happen, this will happen, that will happen. So it's so much planned and we are doing it in that way. So let's not do that. So let's do it in this way. It also helps, right? So we are using this technique of free association. Whatever comes to your mind, anything about past, anything about present, even if you're talking about some movies, you can say that, you can think about some project you have done in the past, you can talk about your ex, you can talk about your dreams of becoming an artist, whatever comes to your mind. So these were used to explore the unconscious meanings of dreams or anything that was there in the unconscious, which otherwise was not possible for us to get access to. So the Gestalt approach does not interpret and analyze the dreams. Instead, the intent is to bring the dreams back to life and relive the dreams as if they were happening now. So the dream is acted out in the present. So generally when we are talking about dreams, we say, you know what, last night I dreamt that I was falling off from a mountain. I don't know why I just saw that. You know what? I saw that I won the first prize and I was so happy. I was so excited. People were meeting me. So we are talking about a dream that is the past. So here we are not interpreting, okay, what does it mean? You are falling down. That means you are feeling very insecure. That means you are anxious. That means you are fearful. No, we are not interpreting any dreams. Here we are asking the client to act out on that dream. That means do a drama in simple language. This is the topic. You have seen this in the dream. Instead of verbalizing that, do a drama. So the dream is basically acted out in the present moment. And the dreamer, is the client, becomes a part of his or her dream. So what will happen? Whatever is there in the subconscious or unconscious, knowingly or unknowingly, the client will act it out or project in the form of that role play or the acting out thing that the client is doing. Therapist is going to pick up on that. But otherwise, if you would have asked the person about it, the person might not have been able to mention or the area so big. So if we are talking about discussing about the dreams of the client, so yes, dreams does play an important role in the Gestalt therapy. We have just now discussed about it in detail as they can help the individuals to understand the spontaneous aspects of themselves that's coming. So, Fritz Perls frequently asked their clients to relive his or her dreams by playing different objects and other people in the dream. So during this, they would be asked questions like, what are you aware of now? To sharpen their self-awareness and to gain more idea and knowledge about the different areas which they were otherwise not aware. Apart from these things, another thing is also very. So just a while ago, we were discussing that they are supposed to focus on an individual's verbal communication, the language, and the non-verbal facial expression and body language of the client. So we need to attend the body language of the client. So throughout the therapy, a Gestalt therapist will concentrate on body language, which is considered a subtle indicator of intense emotions. So when specific body language is noticed, then the therapist may ask that the client can exaggerate their movements or behaviors. So we are focusing on the body language throughout the therapy session. We are concentrating on that. Okay? Because body language speaks a lot than the words. When we are talking about body language, around 55% of a language is being interpreted from the body language itself. So when specific body language is noticed, then the therapist may ask the client, can you exaggerate on this movement or behavior? For example, the client was frowning and saying something. Okay, can you exaggerate on that facial expression that you just now mentioned? So I frown way more and I'll try to act out on it. This is thought to intensify the emotion that is attached with the behavior and highlight an inner meaning. But prior to that, maybe I was not aware of it so much. I did not have such clarity. Now that I'm acting out on it and I am highlighting on those parts, that is helping me or enabling me to be aware of the areas in a much better way. Next, the other concepts that we were discussing just a while ago while discussing about the every chair technique or the two chair technique, like exchanging parts. So let's discuss about the top and the under. That's how it's made. So a commonly utilized Gestalt technique is that of the top or underdog dialogue. This technique is used when the therapist notices two opposing opinions or attitudes within the same client. That means something which the therapist is noticing is contradictory. It's contradicting we will be focusing on. So here, the therapist encourages the client to distinguish between these two parts of the play. So the role of each in a dialogue between them. So the tyrannical talk demands that things to be in a particular way, whilst the underdog plays the role of a disobedient child. No, it should be like that, it's not like this. So on one hand, you are saying it need to be like this. On other hand, you are like, no, I don't want to be it. So there is a split. It's not matching. So the individual becomes a split between the two sides and they are struggling to control and get access to the things in a better way. So here, the therapist will actually help the individual deal with those areas. So when we are talking about this topic, it is when the therapist notices these two opposing opinions or attitudes within the client. Only then we are applying this term. As we did discuss, that no technique is just like that we are applying. If it's applicable, if it's required only on those occasions, we will be relevant. And also just a while ago, we were discussing that we also need to confront the point. So when here we are seeing a contradiction, we are going ahead with the same in a gentle and sometime manner. Okay. One of you mentioned, is this like cognitive dissonance? We may say. Sometimes what happens here, slightest difference is the person is previously not aware of it. Oh, I was having such kind of a conflict. I was not aware. So now they're aware. So the therapist basically helps the client to identify the difference between the two parts, which previously the client was not aware. Clients, I want to do this, but I don't know why it is not happening. But now you know. Because on one hand, you want to do this, but on the other hand, no, I don't want to go ahead in that. So it's not matching. And then they play the role of each of a dialogue between them. So when I'm playing that dialogue, I'm listening to what I'm saying. My ears are listening to my words. Then I'm getting an understanding and identification of those words. The tyrannical top dog demands that things to be in a particular way. Whereas the underdog, as we were discussing, they're like disobedient. No, it will not be like that. So here you are getting to understand what is it that is acting as a subconscious obstruction because of which you are not able to proceed. We often say, no, I don't know what I'm not able to do. I don't know what is keeping me back because I want to do it. You want to, but at the same time, this is something which is withdrawing you and not enabling you to do it. Hence, the individual is split between the two sides, struggling for control. And that part again, the professional or the therapist is getting to understand and helping the client with regard to those specific areas to help them carry out with it in a much more realistic and a practical manner to benefit. When we talk about all these areas, another thing also comes up, another technique from that we are using. Fantasy therapy. So when we are dealing with our cognition, we also fantasize a lot of things. Think about something, what if, and this and that, and going ahead in a particular way, this kind of things are also coming up. So fantasy is used in Gestalt Therapy. This is going to help us increase the client's self-awareness because now they're fantasizing something. So based on what we fantasize, something we want. So for example, I want to go on a vacation. So now I'm fantasizing my last trip, my last vacation, how beautiful the sea was, how beautiful the mountain was, how beautiful the waterfall was, and this. So fantasizing, I am there and I'm doing something. So here, fantasy part, we are again using it practically in the Gestalt therapy to increase the client's self-awareness of their thoughts and their emotions, and to bring about a closure to the unfinished business. So we are fantasizing something needs to be there. That is in our thoughts. So again, bringing into consciousness is important. Therapists use guided imagery techniques to make them fantasize. So what is a guided imagery technique? Now let me help you with understanding this. Generally, we ask the client to close their eyes to imagine something. Then we guide. Close your eyes and imagine you are doing this. You're walking by the seashore. Try to feel that your feet is getting sunk into the wet sand. Try to feel the temperature of it. Try to feel the sound of the waves rushing towards the shore. Try to feel the warm breeze touching your cheeks. Try to feel the water and the foam washing away your feet. Try to feel the temperature of it. So in this way, clients closing their eyes, therapist is giving them the direction and they are trying to imagine that. So here, this is termed as guided imagery. Imagery is like using the client's imagination, and here I'm guiding them to fantasize something, to encourage the clients to imagine situations such as what they would do in a certain situation, or by projecting themselves into different roles, how they would react, how they would react. So in that way also we will be able to again identify a lot of things which otherwise we might not have identified. Next, the body as a vehicle for communication. We have already discussed that something happens, it builds up on the body, right? So we need to pay attention to the bodily changes, the bodily reactions that we are experiencing. So Gestalt therapy sees that not only the thoughts and emotions are important in creating a feeling of wholeness for the client, but the physical sensations are also important. What are you experiencing in your body? Before we jump into this part, let me discuss this with all of you. The mind, the body, it's an integrated whole. It's not that my mind works separately and my body works. No, it's all connected. When I'm not feeling good, when I'm feeling depressed, stressed, I will not feel very energetic and happy, and I'll not be feeling pleasant feelings on my body. In the same way, when you are not doing fine physically, then what happens? Mentally also you don't feel good. I'm not feeling right. What happened to your mind? You're not depressed. Why are you saying you're not feeling right? Something has happened to your body, not your mind. So this is a proof that it is interrelated. Something happens to the body, it affects the mind, and something happens to the mind, it's affecting the body. So it's like vice versa. So anything will happen, it will build up in the body, the emotions and everything. So Gestalt therapy sees that not only the thoughts and emotions are important to creating a feeling of wholeness for the client, the physical sensations are also equally important that they are experiencing. Seligman 2006 has identified 3 strategies to help in focusing, paying attention to those physical sensations that we experience. First, we need to go ahead with identifying those. So identification is the first thing. So Gestalt therapists should be able to recognize the physical signs of their case. For example, a client might be tapping their feet on the ground. For example, when the client is thinking about something or sharing on something, the client is tapping the feet on the ground, like making a foot movement. Therapist is going to observe and identify that this is the movement. The therapist may say, become your leg and give it a voice. This creates awareness of the client's physical sensations and emotions that it was there, but otherwise I was not aware of it. Okay. Locating emotions in the body. We also need to locate on emotions, where all it is building up in the body. Gestalt therapists may ask clients where they are experiencing the emotion in them. For example, a client may say they are feeling nervous about something. So the therapist may ask where this is coming from in the body. And the response from the client may be in the feeling in butterflies in the stomach. Maybe the client is something is happening in the stomach. It feels like butterflies in the stomach. So that is the body sensation that you experience. Often we experience that, for example, when we get anxious or when we are anticipating something, when we are excited or we are thinking that what if this happens? So this helps the client to bring about more awareness into those sensations and the connected emotions. So that means whenever that sensation is taking place, that means that is a particular emotion you are experiencing because of which that is taking place. Next, talking about this part, another thing is very important, that is making the rounds. So making the rounds in a Gestalt exercise is that it involves asking a person in a group to go up to others in the group. We can carry out in individual sessions. If required, we also can carry out group session. So here they will be asking a person in a group to go up to others in the group and either speak to or do something with each other, whatever you feel. What is the purpose? Why we are doing it? It's not that just like that we are just doing it. No. So the purpose is to confront, to risk, to disclose the self, to experiment with new behavior, and to grow and exchange. This would again help you to understand and be aware of a lot of other things. Just like we have discussed about the previous exercises or activities. In the similar way, we can also go ahead with the reversal exercise. Let's see what it is. So certain symptoms and behaviors, often it represent underlying or latent impulses. That means I'm doing something, but beneath that something else is there. And some latent or hidden impulses are also there. Thus, the therapist could ask a person who claims to suffer from severe inhibitions and excessive timidity to play the role of exhibitionist. So if they are more aware of these things, why it is taking place, then they will be able to better go ahead and deal with this part. So this rehearsal exercise will basically help them with regard to those specific areas to deal about better and a much more practical way. Okay. So oftentimes we get stuck in rehearsing silently. If we are rehearsing something, we may get stuck. Every time it does not go ahead in a smooth manner as we thought we would be continuing with and to get benefit out of it. It may not happen in therapy. So when we are talking about that, we are getting stuck. So sometimes if we are carrying out with it and silently and we ourselves are not able to go ahead with it, we are feeling stuck. That means we will gain acceptance gradually. When it comes to the performance, we experience a straight threat of anxiety because we fear that we will not play our role well. So internal rehearsal consumes much more level of energy and frequently it inhibits our spontaneity and willingness to experiment with our mood. So when clients share their rehearsals out loudly with a therapist, they become more aware of many preparatory means they use during their social meetings. So that's how it is helping them. And another thing which is benefiting the clients, which we also use it as a technique under Gestalt therapy, which is very essential for us to know, that is the exaggeration exercise. We are exaggerating on certain things to pay more attention, to bring it to consciousness and to know more about. The aim of Gestalt therapy is for clients to become more aware of the subtle signals and the cues they are sending through the body language and the movements, the postures, the gestures, all the things. They may communicate some significant meanings, yet the cues may be incomplete. In this exercise, the person is asked to exaggerate the movement or gesture repeatedly. So if you're repeating, and you are exaggerating on something, obviously it will come to light and you would be paying attention about it. You would be more aware about it, which usually intensifies the feelings that are attached to that behavior and making the inner meaning much more clearer. So some examples of the behaviors that led to themselves to the exaggeration technique are trembling, like the person starts to shake their hand and legs. So it was shaking a little bit. I'm shaking it more to be more aware of it. Why is it taking this? What is it? Or maybe I'm having a slouched posture and bent shoulders or clenched fists, or tightening, frowning, facial grimacing, or crossing the arms, and so many other things can be there. So just exaggerate. That will also help you to gather a lot of information about certain things which you may not be aware of otherwise. The story doesn't end there. After that, we also ask the individuals for staying with the feeling. Now continue with the feeling. Feel it, get used to it over time, instead of fearing and avoiding. So most clients, they desire to escape from a fearful stimulus. So the easiest way or the easiest thing that we always do is we withdraw or we escape. No, that's it. No, that will create an anxiety. But the point is, the more you avoid, the more you withdraw, are you able to deal with it? Not really. That's a temporary runaway from the situation. It's not benefiting you. You're not learning to cope with it. So what should you do instead? Face it, conquer it, overcome it. So most clients desire to escape from a fearful stimuli to avoid the unpleasant feelings. So at key moments, when clients refer to a feeling or a mood that is unpleasant and from which they have a good desire to flee, the therapist may urge the client to stay with their feeling and encourage them to go deeper and deeper into that feeling instead of running away from it or behavior they wish to avoid. It's like, let's see what happens. What will happen? Face it. Facing and experiencing the feelings not only builds up courage in the individual, but also is a mark of a willingness to endure the pain necessary for unblocking and making way for newer growth. The point here is previously I was approaching something and I was withdrawing. No, I will not do it. I was approaching, I was withdrawing. So always there have been a fear if it happens, what will I do? How will I manage? Instead, here, what are we doing? We are going ahead with helping an individual to expose themselves to the most fearful situation. Expose. We get used to it, or you overcome the fear. You are feeling the greatest fear that you were avoiding. And now you're like, did anything happen? Oh no, nothing happened. So I conquered it. So now the growth is actually taking place. That's how this is basically helping the individuals. One of you asked, sometimes the feelings can be overwhelming. Is this a process done in stages? Yes, it can be overwhelming. So we are doing these things in the presence of the therapist. If it's too overwhelming, then the therapist may help the client how to stop on that maybe for that time. And if the therapist feels that the client is yet not ready to carry out with this technique, the therapist will not start. So the client's preparation is very important, like in our previous slides that we discussed. Before that, we do not force an individual, no, this is the technique, you don't know, we will do it. It doesn't work. Because as we discussed, without the client's active participation in any of the procedures, we will not be able to bring success to the client or to the process that we are following. Next, the repetition and the exaggeration part together we are doing. So if there is a repetition, such as example of the client tapping their feet on the ground, they're repeating this. The therapist would get them to exaggerate the movements and talk about the feelings that come up. So what is coming to your mind? Tell me, you're tapping the feet. What are you feeling? This in turn focuses on the emotion and should help to release the blocked awareness that is there. Initially, the client may say, I don't know, I just don't know. But generally, it is maybe some kind of fear, some kind of discomfort, some kind of anxiety that is there in the client, which is getting reflected in the form of that fact. Another thing is confusion. Yes. So the technique of dealing with confusion of the client is about drawing attention to the client's hesitation in talking about something unpleasant. You might see when something is being asked, and if you're not very okay with discussing that thing, you will be like, so you are feeling hesitation, or you are hesitant to discuss about it, or you will not be able to maintain that eye contact with the person like previously you were maintaining because you're not feeling very good with that. Okay. So that's how we are going to it. So the technique of dealing with confusion of the client about drawing attention to the client's hesitation in talking about something unpleasant that maybe the client is experiencing. So if we are focusing on that, we will be able to identify on it. The hesitation can be shown through avoidance. I'm just avoiding that question that you were asking, or I'm just blanking out, or I'm verbalizing. That means I'm sharing it in words, I'm saying it, or I'm fantasizing something and then I'm saying it. I don't know, maybe I will be doing, maybe I don't know. So that way, by drawing attention to that hesitation, not what you are answering, that is not important for me. What is important for me is to point you, see, you are hesitating. For so long we were communicating and you were saying it directly. This is this, this is this, this is this, this is this. But the moment this was asked, you're like, not sure, or just not. So by drawing the attention to that hesitation, it creates self-awareness for that client and allows the client to work through that issue, which otherwise the client was just not touching on. So with this, we are done with discussing so many practical techniques, like as a part of this Gestalt therapy. So what all we did discuss? First of all, we did discuss that the role of clients and the role of counselors, how they go ahead with it. Also the role of counselors to go ahead with confronting the client. And then we did discuss about the therapeutic methods and techniques, where we did discuss about experiments, we did discuss about the role play, then we did discuss about the open chair or the empty chair technique. Then we did discuss about the dialogue, the internal dialogue exercise that we can do. Then we did discuss about the dream work, discussing the dreams, paying attention to the body language, and the concept of top dog and underdog. With regard to that, then we did discuss about the fantasy, creatively thinking about something or fantasizing. We did discuss about the body as a vehicle for communication, identification of those parts, and creating emotions on the body, making the rounds, the reversal exercise also we did discuss, and the reversal exercise. We also did discuss about exaggerating on our feelings. That's also an exercise. Staying with a particular feeling rather than trying to keep it away. Repetition and exaggeration, and also dealing with the individual's confusion. So it's not that we have discussed about so many techniques, we have learned so many techniques. So whenever we will be using it, we will be applying it for, like, we will be applying all the techniques on a client. No, it isn't working. Instead, as and when required, we will have to choose one, two, or more of the techniques, and we will have to tailor the sessions for the requirement of the client. It's not that more number of techniques you apply, the better therapy you are giving to them. That makes no sense. So now that we have learned on this techniques, now let us discuss about its application part. So we have learned. So where all we can apply or use the learning. So it can be applied as a long-term therapy or as a brief and focused approach. So originally, Gestalt therapy was predominantly used to treat individuals who were anxious and depressed and who were not showing serious pathological symptoms, but still they were not able to overcome the difficulties. So personality disorders such as borderline personality disorder, they are also being used this. We can use it for managing tension or anxiety symptoms in an individual. We can also use it for areas where we often see that they are suffering from addiction issues. We can also use it for PTSD, like post-traumatic stress, like a traumatic event has taken place, and post-trauma, what all difficulties an individual is experiencing with regard to that also. And we will be able to use it. That is also there. Apart from that, we will be also able to use it, like it also is effective in counseling groups, couples, families, where we are helping them to be present on the current situation. Okay. Further, we can also use it for overall, like people who participate in just one, they tend to feel more self-confident, calm, and at peace with themselves. That is also a very, very important part to understand. So from this, we are getting a clear view that we can use it for clinical as well as non-clinical purposes as well. So we did discuss that we can also use it for borderline personality disorder, right? So obviously this is a much more serious part that we are talking about, right? So when we are talking about this borderline personality disorder, often it is referred to as BPD. So here what we see is they are facing a lot of problems or issues in their management, self-management. They have a lot of fear. For example, a fear of getting abandoned. What if people leave? They have a lot of relationships and unstable relationships. Unstable self-image. Why I am like this? I am not satisfied with myself. I am this, I am that. They are not able to regulate their mood in an appropriate way. Frequently, their mood changes and all these to extremities. They are having poor coping skills, because of which often it is seen that they are highly impulsive. Also, they indulge in dangerous behaviors like gambling, then like taking drugs and mood altering drugs. And repeated harm or even suicidal behaviors can be there seen in them, because they lack the coping skills to carry out with the things. Their distress tolerance is basically very low. Persistent feeling of emptiness. They might have everything in their life, but still they will be like, what is there? Nothing is there, and I'm not enjoying anything. When they get angry, they are not able to calm down themselves easily. They are also have anger management issues. They are not able to calm down themselves. And in small triggers, they may get overexcited, and it may be very exaggerated in comparison to any other person. And also sometimes they can also have some paranoid thoughts at a very temporary level. So this is a serious problem which like restricts them to function properly in their everyday life, in their profession, in their family, in their personal relationships, all the areas. It basically gets affected because of this. So, what are the strengths? Now it's clear, it's giving us so many benefits. So there is empirical research to support the Gestalt therapy and its techniques. So Gestalt therapy is equal to greater than other therapies in treating various disorders. So Gestalt therapy is a beneficial impact with personality disorders, and the effects of therapy are stable. So works with the past by making it relevant in the present. Versatile, and it's flexible in its approach to the therapy. It has many techniques and may be applied to different therapeutic issues. There is nothing fixed or rigid. We need to go ahead in this way, we need to go ahead in that way. So we are not having anything like that. So let's talk about the contributions of the Gestalt. What are the contributions when we are talking about the Gestalt therapy? So one of the contributions of the Gestalt therapy is the exciting way in which the past is dealt with a lively manner in bringing relevant aspects into the present. We have discussed it's not going on in a discussion method. All the things are very much practical, whatever we are doing. So Plan 2002 identifies the most significant contributions of the Gestalt approach, where it was identified that the critical importance of contact with oneself, with others, and the environment is very important. And the central role of the authentic relationship and the dialogue in therapy is also very essential. The emphasis on the field theory, the phenomenology, and the awareness is also being created, and the therapeutic focus on the present and the here and now experiencing of the client is also very essential. So the creative and the spontaneous use of active experiments throughout the session, whatever we have discussed, all are the practical and the active things we are doing with our clients as a pathway to the experiential learning for an individual. So the Gestalt approach to working with dreams is a unique pathway for people to increase their awareness of key themes in their lives. And it is basically a holistic approach that is valuing each aspect of an individual's experience equally. I mean, nothing is left out. Brownfield and Boltzmann 2002 note that both the process and outcome studies have advanced the theory and the practice of Gestalt therapy, and they have summarized a number of significant findings which are based on the outcome research. This indicates, firstly, outcome studies have demonstrated that Gestalt therapy to be equal to or greater than other therapies for various other disorders that we know about. And more recent studies have shown that Gestalt therapy has a beneficial impact with the personality disturbances, psychosomatic. That means because of psychological issues, the person is having bodily symptoms and substance-related disorders or addiction issues in an individual. So the effect of Gestalt therapy will tend to be stable in follow-up studies in 1 to 3 years after the termination of the treatment as well. And the Gestalt therapy has demonstrated effectiveness in treating a variety of psychological disorders. There is nothing fixed. Anywhere you can see this is applicable, we can apply it. But despite of so many positive things, all sort of techniques or all sort of therapies have some limitations to it. So let's conclude with the limitations. Limitations and criticisms of Gestalt therapy. We are talking about that. First of all, talking about new weaknesses that are there. So for Gestalt therapy to be effective, the therapist must have a high level of personal development himself or herself to carry out it. The effectiveness of confronting the theoretical techniques of Gestalt therapy is limited and has not been well established. And it has been considered to be a self-centered approach which is concerned with just individual development in an individual. And the potential danger for the therapist is to abuse the power they have with the clients. There can be lack of strong theoretical base. It deals only with here and now. But in certain cases, the past may be very important and very significant. But here we are not focusing on that. It does not deal with the diagnosis and testing. With the help of this, we are not reaching to any diagnosis. So most of criticisms of Gestalt therapy pertain to the older version or the style of Fritz Perls, which emphasized on confrontation and de-emphasized the cognitive factors. What about thought process? Maybe I'm thinking in a particular way, and that's why I'm reacting or dealing with it in that way. So sometimes the thoughts, the cognitive patterns also affect our emotions and our behavior. But those areas we are not dealing here. In Gestalt therapy, clients clarify their thinking, explore their beliefs, and put meaning to experiences they are living in the therapy. So, Gestalt practice places a high value on the contact and the dialogue between the therapist and the client. Gestalt therapists are highly active. And if they do not have the characteristics, their experiments can easily boomerang mentioned by Ziegler in the year 1978. So lastly, talking about the ethical practice. So it depends on adequate training and supervision of the therapists. And the most immediate limitation of the Gestalt or any other therapy is the skill, the training, the experience, and the judgment by the therapist. Because your therapist is playing a very important and a very practical role to help the individuals. So an active participation from the side of the therapist is also there. They are not there just as a silent observer on the debate. So that's why these are some of the very, very essential parts that we need to look at. Although Gestalt therapy is a vast part, but I have tried to put in the maximum of it for today's session. So with this, we are done with the portion that we intended to cover for today's workshop. So we started a discussion on discussing about understanding the Gestalt theory, the Gestalt therapy, how it works. We also did discuss about the theory of personality, the concept of Gestalt therapy, the therapeutic goals, the therapist's function and the role the therapist plays. And we also did discuss about the methods and the techniques that we use practically to carry out with each of the sessions with our clients and benefit them. We also did discuss about its practical applications And definitely we also concluded by discussing about the strengths and weaknesses of the Gestalt therapy. Okay. Yes, I do provide online sessions as well. So we have reached to the last part of the session. I thank each one of you for showing an interest and also actively participating throughout the session. Here I have put my contact details as well. It's mentioned here. You can drop me a message anytime you wish at my personal WhatsApp window. I'll definitely be there to help you out. Same. I do take up clients online meeting. Take care, everybody. I hope to meet you all again soon in some other course, internship, or workshop. So to share your valuable feedback with us, and we will update you about the certification process in the group itself. A Google link will be shared. You need to add in your details and we will update you about the certification. Generally, the certificate takes around 15 to 17 working days. We will update about the same. Next Sunday, we are having another workshop. That too will be benefiting you a lot. Next week, we are having a workshop on CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. That's a very essential part. So in detail, it will be covered along with all the practical applications. So next Sunday, we are having it from 12 p.m. So in case any of you are interested, please do join that. You can check with our website or also you can connect with me at my personal WhatsApp window. I'll definitely. By the end of the day, I will share today's session recording with you all, where everything has been recorded. All our discussions, the presentation that I have shared, everything will be recorded. I will not be able to take up your calls, but definitely if you are connecting me at my personal WhatsApp window via message, I'll help you out the same. You also have my contact number. I hope to meet you all soon in some other course, internship, or workshop. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for your active participation and for showing interest. Very good evening to all of you. Please take care. Thank you.